Welcome to Make Your Money Matter with Brad Barrett, the show that aims to change the way you think about wealth management. Brad is a financial advisor, established radio host, and author of Retire Right. He is a managing director and partner at One Capital Management, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm managing over $4 billion for clients across the nation. Brad and his team are dedicated to helping clients protect and preserve their assets so they can reach their investment and retirement goals. And now, your host of Make Your Money Matter, Brad Barrett.
Welcome in to Make Your Money Matter. I'm your host, Brad Barrett. I'm also managing director and partner here at One Capital Management. Hey, today on the show, we're going to take a little bit of a detour this week, and I want to share with you, get a little personal, open up my heart a little bit, and share with you what's been going on in the Barrett household over the past week. For many of you who listened to me over the past few years, know that my wife and I and my kids, we just moved back from Lahaina, Maui, Hawaii. And for all of you who realize and are seeing the news over this past couple days, there's been a tragic wildfire that's going on there. And I wanted to share something with you today as it relates to our money, believe it or not. And that's around emotions. And over the weekend, after realizing last Wednesday that our family home was lost in the fire, many of our friends have lost everything. Sadly, over the past few days, we realized there's some people we know that actually didn't make it out. And unfortunately, I think that might even get worse as these rescue efforts continue. And so I want to come to you hat in hand today and just talk with you about some things that were on my heart, open up with some realities that we've been dealing with, Veronica and I, as well as some of the emotions that we've been going through that I think all of us have around something cathartic in our life, something big, especially even in not even just big stuff, but also the small stuff that we relate our money to. But before we get started, make sure to check out our website at onecapital.com. You can find out more about me or our team here at One Capital Management. You can also download our podcast right there on the onecapital.com website on the media tab. You can also download the podcast on any other platform, whether that's Spotify or SoundCloud or the Apple iTunes app on your phone. And with that, let's get started. So as I shared at the beginning of the show, I want to spend a minute or two just describing this last week. Currently, as of the recording of this, it is August 15th. You will likely hear this by tomorrow, August 16th. And for those of you who listen later to this podcast, just wanted to give you some sort of mark in time. And as we saw last week, as many of you saw in the news has come out, August 8th, there was a very large fire that started in Lahaina town in Maui, Hawaii. Now, what people are realizing now, but we kind of knew about 2 weeks before, was that Hurricane Dora was supposed to hit landfall there, and obviously it didn't. We got word of that. My wife and I are still hooked up into the hurricane and tsunami system, and we did hear that we were going to get, or they were going to get, the winds or the weather, so to speak. Now, we've been there. When we lived there, we experienced at least one hurricane where we didn't hit landfall, but we did get the weather, and it was largely very wet, so it's just a lot of rain. This one was 80 plus mile an hour winds. Now, I'm especially talking to the group I'm talking to. You well know better than anybody that one little spark or a down power line or anything else with 80 mile an hour winds can ignite a whole situation, and we saw that. Wednesday afternoon, August 9th, we got confirmation that our family home was burned down, along with what we've come to find out later, over 2,000 structures in Lahaina town. This is a town that my wife and I lived in for 3 years with our kids. The people there, our good friends there, our family there, welcomed us with open arms. They are some of the more loving people we've ever been around, and our heart just broke last week. And I'm bringing this up simply to share where I'm at right now in my life. We're still processing it. I just want to share that with all of you. I do care for you all who are out there. I know I don't get to know who's listening all the time, but I just want you to know a little bit about me and kind of where I'm at right now, at this mark in time of August 15th. And I wanted to share it because I want to use this as an opportunity to share a couple things. Obviously, in what I talk about and what I do for a living, I bring the context of our world as human beings into the money world. And whether we like it or not, it's a very important world, because I would ask this, and you can answer this for yourself, but when is the last day you can remember that you didn't think about money? I mean, it's amazing to me, even from the little things of, going to the coffee shop and realizing you're paying $3 for a cup of coffee or whatever it is, all the way up to the bigger purchases in life. So money, regardless of whether we don't know it, it's like an app on our phone that's always running. It's just always in the background. And when life events happen, when cathartic events, as we call them, happen, it pauses you. It makes you start thinking about things. And as we all know, I've said this on the show before, It's the old Mike Tyson saying, right? Everyone's got a plan until you're punched in the face. And I guess what I'm trying to share is last Tuesday and last Wednesday, my family and I, we were punched in the face along with many other people. And unfortunately, the worst part about this whole thing is we are finding out that there are some people that we know that lives were lost. And unfortunately as well, I've been praying hard on this, is that the reality is we're going to see some more in the coming weeks, because knowing that area, knowing how fast it spread, and just knowing the people that were there, it's going to be a very hard, difficult situation. But with that said, I always believe in beauty from ashes, and I do. And my wife always calls me an eternal optimist, and I guess I am. And what I want to share is this, and I was thinking about this over the weekend in prep for today's show and this week's show, is I wanted to bring some of the emotional stuff we talk about that I actually am dealing with personally. So I want to share a little bit more of a personal story over the past couple of days that my wife and I have been talking about. It has a lot to do with, I think, each of you and how we relate things to our life. And more than that, I do want to share that, it's by God's grace that we're not in this town right now, because we were there and we spent every day, and all these pictures we've been seeing, my kids and I were there every day, walking those streets, going to gymnastic classes for Kate, going to baseball practice right there in Lahaina fields for Brooks. Like, we were very involved. And so, there's a favor that we all have sometimes, and it's important that we all take stock, take a moment and realize that, if we're living and breathing right now, we woke up this morning, that's a good day. And I guess we all know this. It's important sometimes to take a pause and just remember that. And I think as I was thinking over this weekend, outside of that, it got me almost more engaged in what I'm doing as a profession, as a purpose. And I want to share something very loud and clear. I love each and every one of my clients, and I'm so, so grateful to work with every one of them. I've been doing this for nearly 20 years in the financial services industry. And just this morning on a podcast show that I was on, the host had asked me, what's the best thing about, my industry or what I do? And my initial answer, and it's always been this way, is the relationships. And I think it's the one commodity that is just, other than time, it's just something that there's no tangible asset that of a trading post, if you will, on a relationship. It's just the genuine nature of human beings, and being, open with them, and just vulnerable, and being able to talk to people and building deep roots. And so I just hope and pray each of you have that within your own family, and give someone a hug today. And with that said as well, the emotions that my wife and I have been dealing with are largely the same emotions that I talk about here on the show. And so I thought, for all of you who listen to me each and every week, know what I speak about. And I want to give you a couple things that likely you probably know, but I'm going to bring it up anyways, is that I am no different than you. Just because what I do, I talk about it in the sense of helping plan, but I'm a human being just like you. I still have emotions. And this week was very telling for me, and I wanted to share that. I feel like, I'm always open with you guys, and you guys are very open with me. I wanted to get a little more personal today, because emotions, as we all can think about times in our life, good and bad, can sometimes get the better of us, right? Everyone at some point in our lives has made an impulsive decision. And sometimes it relates to a purchase, and we're going to talk about that, as it relates to money. But I think a big part of, learning about our emotions, and really about money, as I'll make this bridge here for a second, is something, I'll call it mindfulness, right? It's a paying attention to what it is we're doing, and ultimately why we are doing it. The word catharsis, or something cathartic that happens in your life, the definition in psychology is a powerful emotional release. And it's important that when that happens, we have somewhere to release it. And we hope that it's in healthy ways. And one of the things, and I'm just going to speak to this now, as in the financial world, we have to deal with things, and we want to make sure we have counsel and advisors there to help us with it.
Stay connected. Get frequent updates on the show. Follow Brad Barrett and Make Your Money Matter on most social media platforms. And catch full episodes of Make Your Money Matter streaming now on our YouTube channel. To schedule your no-obligation appointment, go to onecapital.com or call 805-410-5454.
So outside of the emotional side of things, I'm going to bring up specifically four. I'm going to bring up four emotions that I think, relate a lot around money. I speak about this, almost peripherally over the weeks, but I want to go right into it this week as it relates to, some context that we've been dealing with. And it's not, these specific four haven't necessarily been specific ones we've been dealing with, but it got me thinking about all the emotions I deal with as an advisor that we bring to our money. Now, I did share that we lost our family home, and on Friday of last week, this was August, I think 11th, we were talking with our HOA there and just kind of realizing there's just, frankly, to be fair, there's just a lot of misinformation and just so many people trying to get information right now. It's just hard. But it faced me over the weekend that outside of mourning for my town, this town I lived in, these beautiful people that we know, there's also the pragmatic in me that now has to deal with the insurance carriers and just all the stuff that's going to come with the rebuild with us, with my father-in-law who owns this house and we've rented it through our family. And it got me thinking that, we know this, but the worst part about something like these events is that we realize that the next morning we wake up, the earth is still spinning. And it's just hard to process. And so what I want to share about these emotions is we tend to carry these emotions along in our life from different things that have happened, big, small, good, bad, everything. And I think it's important for us to bring it up because as we talk about it, you start realizing that contextually when it comes to money, particularly like spending for a second, right? Let's just be fair. There is something, my wife always says it jokingly, obviously, but there is something to retail therapy. We've heard that term before. It's a small like dopamine hit. It's just something that we do in our culture that alleviates some pain. Now we know that it's not going to fill the void that is likely there. And it's important that we, A, are mindful about it, and then B, have a plan to go into it. And so when I talk about the emotions, and there's some things I was thinking about, is I want to talk about the first one, which is fear. Obviously, this is one item that we were dealing with last week. Just fear of the unknown, the uncertainty. Like no one likes to feel this. We know the acronym, it's forget everything and run. It's just a natural response that we all have. And I think if we relate it to our money, sometimes spending or not investing or investing, it can be motivated by anxiety. And I think we sometimes end up spending extra money sometimes to please others or to quell maybe their fears of missing out. There's a lot of ties that this emotion can play into it. So I guess I want to charge each of us today to make sure that whatever is going on in your life, good, bad, big, small, it doesn't matter. Understand if you're having fear or anxiety around something, or you're carrying it along from something you've gone through, make sure we understand, that it's not hurting our money. It's not hurting our tomorrow self, right? As I share often, what we do today matters tomorrow. So it's like, get busy doing today because you're going to, reap the benefits tomorrow and beyond. And the second emotion I want to bring up is sadness. So these first two obviously were ones that I was dealing with last week and I'm still dealing with them. And sadness, again, this one I relate directly to retail therapy. It's very common for us to eat, to get some dopamine hit from some sugar. I definitely was binging on some ice cream. I'll be honest with you guys. So was my wife. We were just it was just a processing period. And, I found myself going to 31 Flavors with the kids on Friday versus maybe Yogurtland or just getting something from the market. So I was a little bit overspending because in my head, this is minor stuff, but in my head, I was like, no, this is just, it's going to soothe this, quick pain right now. It's going to taste good. It's a good experience with my family, those kind of things, right? Now, again, small, but my point is here, when we bring in fear or we bring in sadness to our world, making sure that we don't do big impulse decisions, especially as it relates to our money with these kind of things, right? Because look, it's okay to admit it. It's common for us as people to try to lift our spirits, through something like a purchase of something or a purchase of a food, or just, we want to be careful of what we're, stuffing our emotions with, because the idea is we want to talk about the emotions, which is why I thought this week would be a good, discussion to go through, because I'm dealing with a lot of it from last week and I'll be dealing with it for a while because I just ache for this community. And, even from the pragmatic side, I also have to deal with my family with losing a home that we spent a lot of work in. My kids and I spent a lot of time in, and it's just sad, and so having sadness is okay to bring up. And I want to do the same work I'm saying on our shows and with our clients, that I don't want to do some impulse decision on the rebuild of this house or anything else based on these emotions of either fear or sadness. And I'm going to switch gears for a second, and I'm going to talk about one thing that I haven't been dealing with in this specific situation, but I think we deal with as well that I have to bring up. Now, this is going to kind of hit somebody on the nose out there right now, but the emotion that I see a lot, and we don't realize it, but it's kind of happening underneath the skin, is jealousy. We hear jealousy and we immediately think, we think little of the person who feels that, or we just like, oh, how can you feel that way, or those kind of things. And look, we all feel it. It's okay to admit it. Sometimes, and I'll be honest with you, I see it a lot. We see people spend to keep up with the latest trends. We have the whole keeping up with the Joneses mentality, the fear of missing out. It was interesting, a total sidebar for a second. My daughter, Kate, is in this phase right now over this past month where we kind of create this, we call it the little bed, right next to our bed, because she's just going through this phase where she's having nightmares. And we said, okay, look, you can come in, just don't wake us up if you can, and you can just lay next to us. So every night she's doing this. So my son the other morning came in around 6 a.m., which is a little bit early, and we were all still asleep. And he said something about his toe. We don't even know what it was. And we heard Kate, prior to him coming in, our daughter, we heard her sawing logs. Like, she was dead asleep, okay? But she has this absolute FOMO. She always is this way. She always doesn't know what's going on, what you said, everything. Like, it's wild. She's the youngest, so there's some traits there that kind of make some sense. And I'm not kidding you, friends. Out of the darkness of her sleep, sawing logs, she gets up like a zombie in her little bed and just goes, "Did you say Oreos?" And we couldn't help but laugh because we're like, "No, sweetie, no one said Oreos." And then she went right back down to sleep. So it's like subconscious for her. She doesn't even know she's doing it. And it's not again, jealousy can be used in different ways, but she just has this fear of missing out. And I think we relate that to money. We have this fear of missing out, like, oh, we're not going to go on this experience when, Mr. and Mrs. Jones did, or we don't have that car, or those kind of things. And so, look, these are just emotions we all bring to the table. It's okay to talk about, and frankly, share this with people. It's important for everyone to go through this and be like, really, I always say, why are you doing what you're doing with your money? Because the why has a lot to do with your emotions. And lastly, I want to go on this one, and I'm going to totally switch gears here and do this fourth emotion I wanted to bring up. And it's more of a performance-based emotion. Achievement, right? I mean, similar to all those emotions I just went through, fear, sadness, jealousy, and there's many others you can bring up. But achievement, success can make people want to reward themselves, and sometimes a bit too much. Like, oh, the whole treat yourself environment. Again, I'm not here to say whether or not you should or shouldn't, but I guess what I'm trying to bring up with these emotions is be cognizant, be aware. Be aware if that's what you're doing, and say, wait a minute, I do want to, celebrate my success, but we want to be careful, like we're not overindulging, okay? And again, these aren't specific, not all of these were specific to this event that I'm bringing up from what my family and I were dealing with this past week. But again, I just want to share that money in general, and I think spending and investing, it's not always rational, all right? Emotions can cause us to do things impulsively on things that are maybe unnecessary or out of our budget. And so it's important, if you talk about these four, and again, there's a couple others you can bring up, to try to not let your feelings control your wallet. And right now, what we're going through, we're having this conversation right now with realizing that, hey, we may not be insured enough for what the rebuild is going to cost us given the new prices. And so emotionally, that's taxing on us. And we're dealing with that and trying to figure out what the right play here is. Mind you, at the same time, all around us, families' houses are primary homes, like their homes where their kids are raised, is gone. Lives have been lost. And so there's just so much going on, and it's hard to know what's right, what's wrong, and which way to move. And I'm just speaking to you openly today. I wanted to open my heart a little bit and just share with you what is going on in the Barrett household, so to speak. And again, I'm just appreciative of having this platform. And so more than anything, these four emotions I brought up, jealousy, fear, sadness, achievement on the performance side, these are just four of many emotions we go through, that the more we talk about it, the more we hear things like this and realize that a lot of people, in fact, everyone is dealing with it, I think we can all start to mend and have a better relationship with our money. And ultimately, in something I'm dealing with, right, it's a better relationship to these events that happen. I mean, the one certain thing we do know in life is there's going to be uncertainty. So understanding, who we are as an identity, and making sure that that's not disrupted by the events of this world or this life throw at us is really important. And so keeping emotions out of that can be a key part to it. Hey, I want to thank you for listening to the Make Your Money Matter show today. As always, before acting on anything discussed, make sure to speak with a financial advisor near you about your specific situation. Or again, if you'd like our help, you can reach us at 805-410-5454 or on our website at onecapital.com. And until next week, always remember to make your money matter.
The information in this show is educational and general in nature and does not take into consideration a listener's personal circumstances. Therefore, it is not intended to be a substitute for specific individualized financial, legal, or tax advice. To determine which strategies or investments may be suitable for you, consult the appropriate qualified professional prior to making a final decision.